In 2020, I was approached to write the theme tune for a fictional television show that existed within a play called The Bold, the Young and the Murdered. I was given the brief that it was about a cheesy soap opera that had been running for far too long. I was given one reference example to start with, which was Dallas.
Which starts with this terrific build that brings you straight into the tune itself. I chose to opt a similar approach with drums, horns, and string runs. Now we need this big tune that will go over the opening of the show. More on that later. So we've got these horns and the accompanying bass to continue. I've always wanted to do a bass drop, and with a cheesy soap opera like this, I felt like my time had come. And lastly, this horn motif which we heard before the bass drop.
And that was that. Sent the tune off, they were happy, I was really happy with it as well. And then, well, you know what happened next. We had to wait. So we're back, and we had a reread through of the script, and I went along simply to just listen to the play and take my initial notes. The premise of the show is that a long-running soap opera is about to be axed, so they make an attempt to make the best possible episode they can, when suddenly members of the cast are dying left, right and centre. As the play continues and more cast members begin to die, they have to accommodate for the deaths in the narrative. One of the notes I have written here is organ stab. For a moment in the show where the episode comes to a cliffhanger, which led me to the idea that there should be two musical worlds in this show. One that exists within the real world, and one that exists within the TV show, letting the audience know whereabouts we are within the play, even if they don't realise it. But how to do it? I started with arranging a sort of music diary with all of the instruments I'd used for the title sequence. That would be the sound of the television show. And then a completely different palette for the real world with instruments that are totally new to the audience.
For the TV show, we had string runs, string trills, staccato brass and longs, Spitfire Labs warm bass with a cool pedal on it for that 80s cheese. Logic orchestral kit, Logic bass guitar for the drop, and for the real world sound we had Labs piano with some delay, Labs glass piano, Labs scary strings, woodwinds, flute and bass clarinet, and some violin tremolos.
Now, most of the TV music I wrote was simply transition music between scenes and stings for those cliffhanger moments that I mentioned earlier. There were many cliffhanger moments.
One of our villains is the producer of the television show, so it felt appropriate to use the TV theme again. I took the melody from the TV show, moved a couple of the notes, and played the melody as a chord. In the bass, we have a similar accompaniment. Only really done for the delight of it, but thematically I felt like it served a purpose.
In terms of the real-world palette, I knew that the first time we should hear it would be when the first murder occurs. Paired with the lighting setup that we had, we hoped that it would create an atmosphere that was both dramatic and surprising.
Yeah, I'm not going to make it back tonight, so I'm going to need you to water some plants. Well, they need it every day. Don't care if you're busy. Well, they're very demanding. Got orchids. That's weird. Lights just went out. There's no building, I guess. Hello? There you go. Is there anybody there? Ow! That really hurt! What was you? Ow!
Most of the real-world music is simply when people are being murdered throughout the show. However, there were certain other elements that did need to be accented with music. At the end of Act 1, the cast gather round yet another dead body. This being the final image we leave the audience with before curtain.
I simply took the melody once more and put it higher on the piano with an added note for some intrigue. Then the flute and string work together to swell as the curtains close.
Maybe there's something on the bed. Oh, that's a possibility. Tonight, I will kill you all.
Now, can we try and figure out who the murderer is?
Act 2 begins, much like Act 1, in the same location, inside the television show. Our villain in the show had a long monologue that I thought could lend some music, with the idea that the show wouldn't have the money to show you the story in the flashback that he talks about, so they resorted to the music to do the job.
I therefore used the whole tone scale, as it's a classic example of remembering and going back to the past, dreams, etc. Paired with a string accompaniment that is derived from the first few notes of the main tune, with a few changes here and there. As his monologue continues, I took most of the material from part 1, changed the key, and it became the material for part 3. The start of Act 2 had no real intro as the curtain opened, but I looked at the TV music I had already written, and I had found a scene opening that I hadn't used, which not only reprised enough of the TV theme, but it worked so perfectly as it bled into the actual scene that we had to use it.
Okay.
I see you found your babe.
At the end of Act 2, I decided to use the same sting for our villain as I'd been using throughout the show. But the show was lacking something to close with before bows.
I decided to write one last cue for the show, which incorporated the villain theme and the main theme, but adding plenty of dread.
Thanks. You're the best dad ever. Happy ending.
Every job I do is a learning job. On this, I was able to create a full score using very little material, but have it go very far. And having to cue my own music in for each performance was both challenging and exciting every single night. Here's to more in the future.